This is the 2022 National Masters Rowing Championships in Sarasota, Florida. And lots of people from all over the country are here to compete. There are lots of boats here, singles, doubles, fours, eights, for lots of competitors. A prestigious event here in Sarasota, one of the greatest venues for rowing races. And like some of the other interviews we did, that's a picture of the race course where launching the boats is right there. And these is an example of some singles. Of course, you can be men and women, different age groups, but this is the Masters, and it becomes a very competitive sport. There's lots of people that are competing in these singles, and like I say, they come from all over the country, these single boats. In the doubles, again, you can have mixed doubles or 2 men, 2 women, different age groups, very competitive category, and you can see how these rowers are often trained together for many months, if not for years, to come to a race like this. Here we have the quads, could be 2 men, 2 women, 4 men, 4 women. Again, age group. Again, the key of keeping in sync. That's everyone faces, of course, the pace setter there in the back of the boat, and he's the one that sets the pace, and it's usually the one in front who's handling the direction.
Both of those crews are racing, coming away with gold medals in each of their categories.
Here we have the eights, again, all kinds of combination of all men, all women, or men and women, but it's a powerful race. And I think one of the things that I'd want to mention is that we've did some interviews and some video of the races in Oak Ridge, and we met a couple of men. They were over 70 before they ever started rowing. So, and I've met others that were over 70 when they started this sport.
Okay, we're here at the 2022 Masters
National Rowing Championships.
in Sarasota, Florida. We're here with Neil and George and Ken, and they've been out practicing. Obviously, it looks like Ken has already, you'll have to tell us about it, been in an event where he won. Congratulations, Ken. So we're, like I was mentioning to you, we've got a channel, and it's called Redefining Aging. We go around the country and do events. I'll be rowing tomorrow. And we talk to people how that, whatever that event is, Senior Olympics, triathlons, master boxing, rowing. I happen to believe rowing is probably one of the greatest all-around opportunities for training there is.
And so do we.
Yeah, so do you. So tell us in your own words, and it can be, how you got into rowing, what rowing's meant to you, how it's enhanced the quality of your life, any obstacles you've overcome, anything you've...
Well, let me say first 2 things. One is we're a lot of brothers, and this is my twin, Ken, and this is one of the younger ones, less than a year younger. Chris is at home. We were 2 sets of twins. We used to race as the twin shell, which was a run-on word. It was either twin shell or twins hell, depending on how you wanted to read it. And we're very successful and so forth. Anyway,
Your mom had 2 sets of twins.
two sets of twins, less than a year. We used to hear all the time, your poor mom, but my poor mom is going to be 100 in October.
I love it.
My dad died, unfortunately, when he was well past 100 also. But anyway, rowing, we agree with you. It is the best sport because it's fluid. It also is the best because it's the most cardiovascularly challenging. And I know other people in other sports may dispute that, but the fact is, in rowing, every single major muscle group is used. You use your legs a lot, your back. I even use my neck, arms. Maybe I shouldn't, but I do. I feel, at the end of a race that I've been using my neck. And as a result, your cardiovascular, my resting pulse is 31 during the day. Even on a hot day like this, if you took it, it'd be in the high 30s. I once went for an annual physical. The nurse came to do my blood pressure and so forth. She saw it was 31 then, during the day. Went running for the doctor. He's dying, he's dying. And after we finish racing, the pulse rate drops again very quickly if you're in shape. And they've done any number of tests. When I was in the Olympic camp, they found out that rowers suck up more oxygen per minute than any other sport. And in Barcelona, so that means we're taking in a lot of oxygen that we need for all these different muscles. And then in Barcelona, they took the blood samples of people when they had just finished, and lactic acid builds up if you have oxygen debt. Rowers had the highest lactic acid. In other words, we're rowing with the greatest pain too. But if you add those two things together, we're the highest in the oxygen that we sucked up. We're also the highest in the oxygen measured by lactic acid that we didn't suck up and still needed. The sum total of that is huge. So other sports will say, I get tired out and I'm breathing hard, but I don't think they really know it.
Especially, in the ergs, I've been to the world several times, and when you're putting it all out for a 2,000-meter erg, I mean, that last 500, you're totally anaerobic.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just almost fall over at the end, and you've probably done that too.
Yeah, in fact, there's a famous story. I was secretary of the Yale Crew Association. My predecessor was the 3-man in the Yale 1956 Olympic gold medal crew. Wow. And if you look at the picture of them getting their medals, there's only 7 rowers. He's in the hospital. Why? Because he rowed the last 200 meters in black and white. I've tried to push myself to that degree. I've never succeeded. If you really go for it, you hear the phrase blacking out. He got to the point where he could not see colors anymore, and they took him to the hospital. He survived very nicely, of course, and so forth. And I went to his funeral. The captain of that crew said something that every oarsman tries to achieve. We always said about Johnny Cook that the last stroke he took in a race is the last stroke he could take.
Yeah.
That's when you had the ultimate.
He left it all in the...
Exactly, and that's just another indicator of the sport being. There's one other thing that could be said. This is the only sport that's not a game. You don't play like you play a game of baseball, you play a game of tennis, play a game of football. You don't play a game of rowing. There's no such thing. It's work. And the ergometer is Greek for work measure.
Yeah.
And we used to be called galley slaves before we decided to do it willingly.
That's right. Galley slave. You said something about Olympic training camp. Were you in the Olympic training camp yourself?
Yes, I was.
When tell us about
1968. Well, that was a disappointing experience. I got goose disease right at the wrong time. I lost 15 pounds in 24 hours, and so things happen.
Yeah, they do.
And all these guys came to rowing in different ways. I rowed in high school. Ken rowed at Rutgers. I rowed at Yale. Neil actually didn't row in college, and he came to the sport later to help us out. And now he's I think the best among us.
Wow, and that's
So anyway, I'll let the others speak and answer some questions.
Tell us about your award there.
So Neil and I just raced in the mixed 4.
Okay.
And so we both got medals.
Okay. And
Neil and I and 2 women.
Gold?
It's gold. It's gold.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. And so the mix, that means there's 2 men, 2 women?
2 men, 2 women.
Okay.
And here's our coxswain, Rachel. Why doesn't Rachel come forward?
Yeah, come on, Rachel.
A coxswain, by the way, is more important than people who are not in rowing believe.
Yeah.
Very important, right, Rachel? Very, very important. Here
I
she
kind of
is.
think I'm a little important.
Yes, you're a little
I'm a
important.
little important. Yeah.
Aren't you the motivator that makes it?
And the steerer, we want to make sure that
Oh,
we steer
that's
the
right.
straightest course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's today was a little tough because we had an obstacle in the shell that we've now addressed. We removed something that was in the boat that was blocking the rudder from being properly controlled.
Oh my gosh, that could mess you up pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, how about, has rowing impacted the quality of your life in terms of the conditioning you've had to maintain?
Absolutely.
Major
Discipline.
ways.
Yeah,
Yes.
discipline.
Yes is the only answer to that. Absolutely.
Yes.
And another thing that's very typical of rowers graduating from college, we didn't row for 20 years.
I'll be darned.
And there was a Yale Rutgers Northeastern race in which they had an alumni race. So 3 of us jumped into the alumni. This is before Neil learned how to row. So the 3 of us jumped into the boat and we said, we should get back into rowing again. And
Because we were faster than a lot of the younger people.
I love it.
yeah, in fact, there were 2 boats in this alumni race, a younger boat and us, and we beat the younger boat. But the younger boat had been out drinking, and we had been saying, let's try to beat those guys. So there's a little difference in there. But anyway, so after 20 years of, it's not as if we didn't do anything during those 20 years. We would row, we would run.
Yeah.
And I had run in 15 marathons and lots of 10Ks.
Yeah.
And every now and then we'd get together and run against each other. But then we switched to rowing, and we haven't been doing any running since.
You don't need it, right?
Don't
I
need
used to
it.
run a lot, and then I had both knees replaced.
Yeah.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
Bone on bone, and it was so painful. Which I do small running in a triathlon. I'll do the small.
Yeah, running is a great sport, but that's the main problem with it. It's impact sport. You're
Yeah.
pounding the pavement. They say every time you take a step, it's 3 times your body weight crashing down.
Yeah.
Whereas rowing is fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Swimming the same. I think swimmers have a good
the
thing
best
going.
running is on the beach.
Yeah.
That's hard and it's low impact.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
trail running.
Yeah. Makes that impact.
Because then,
Well-
then you're doing agility up in between rocks and everything else and tree stumps and all that.
Well, any other stories about how maintaining health and fitness? We're trying to motivate those people watching this on the couch that say, gosh, I don't think I can do what they can do. That would just encourage people to get out and just try something. Get it.
If you're trying to encourage people, the thing to realize about rowing is, although it takes some skill that you have to develop and you have to put in the work, anybody can row at any age and get with a club and get some coaching, and within some weeks, Neil became a very good rower after a 6-week how intense was that? Twice a week?
Yeah, that
Twice a week rowing program
was a boat club.
at Narragansett Boat Club, which is the oldest boat club in America, by the way.
Yeah, I was mentioning I was at Oak Ridge, and we met 2 rowers that hadn't started till they were in their 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens.
I was just going to share a story that a lot of my teammates, I'm on an international crew,
Are you?
and there a lot of my teammates didn't start rowing before they were 60, and they've got more gold medals than I do. So
Isn't that something?
yeah.
Yeah, and they started in their, and
Yeah.
I was late 50s. I thought I was really late, but to hear
Yeah.
the 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
it's never too late
No.
to get started.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
Rowing
and then
is
just watch what you eat too.
Yeah.
Garbage in, garbage out. And I think a lot of people,
What? No more cookies? Oh,
1 or 2 cookies is okay. Everything in moderation, but just be disciplined about what you put in your body.
What we also like to ask people, not only help motivate people to get off the couch, but what drives you? Is there a spiritual belief? Is there something that really is important that helps you do the things you do?
But let Rachel answer that, because she's very spiritual. Every
Okay.
email I get is a spiritual message.
You're sweet. God is number 1.
Absolutely.
So He gives you that strength, and He brings community like this together wherever you are, and it becomes a much smaller world.
It is.
And I think we can encourage one another when we're getting ready for these races too.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll dedicate a row or a race to somebody that is maybe needing some encouragement, and then I can take a picture at the end of the race and show them a medal.
Yeah.
90% of the time. And
Well, we're fundamental Christians, Bible believing.
Man, we'll take that.
There you
And we love to hear stories and others that that believe in the.
Rachel won't say it, but I should put in a plug. Rachel goes around the world actually putting into practice what she preaches. It
I love
helps
it.
people.
Is that right, Rachel? Is it a ministry you have?
yeah, I teach Bible study to women rescued from sex trafficking.
Oh, I love it. It's so exciting. I mean, so needed. The more you hear about that kind of thing. And of course, Jesus Christ said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father. But for me, there's only one plan, not a B. It's only...
That's right. That's right.
We love it to hear others, that share that belief.
Well, keep doing what you're doing as well. It's important to encourage people.
Yeah, it's so
And to
great
show them the way.
Get your stories, 3 brothers.
So another thing about the rowing with us is that and this is true of everybody, and as we all had families and other things, jobs and other things, and then as we got older and the kids are older, we had time, but we hadn't seen each other very much except for every Christmas. So then we started sort of family get-togethers at the crew venues. Of course, we didn't do as much visiting at the crew venues. It was mostly, let's rig the boat, let's race, how did we do? Good to see you again. But it enabled us to get together 5-6 times a year instead of just
with a common mission and cause, which made it even better.
Yeah, and then I get to see my buddies once a year, twice a year now,
twice
right?
a year.
Nationals and at the head of the hooch.
Head of the hooch in
We'll be
Chattanooga.
at the hooch.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be there again.
Last year with Rachel as our coxswain, we were the second out of about 20 Masters 4s. The year before we were second, weren't we?
Yeah, we were
Yes.
second.
Yep,
We're
yep.
out of
We're going
about
for
20.
gold this year. We're going for
Yeah,
gold.
it's about
George and I have gotten 3 silvers at the hooch.
Yes.
And 2.
No, one third.
1/3 and 2 fourths.
One year we were 4th, 2/10 of a second out of second, 1/10 out of third. If you've been around the Olympics or anything else, if you're 4th, that's like, oh
Yeah,
no.
I know.
And we were 4th by 1/10 of a second, and we would have been silver with 2/10. This is after 3 miles of racing.
I
Yeah.
know.
I said, isn't there a consolation medal for something?
You're
No,
that
there
close.
isn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And in some regattas, it's only gold. So it's gold or bust, right? Like in Canada.
Yeah, we
we
just won the 4 at the biggest regatta on the East Coast called the Diamond States a
Is it
couple
where-
weeks ago in Delaware.
Middletown, Delaware.
And we won the 4 3 weeks ago down there.
Now, what's the other big race in Boston?
Head of the Charles.
Head of the Charles. We've won that one too.
We won that in 2000.
That's like the third Sunday, I think, in October, or third weekend in October.
Yeah.
That's another one. We finished second 3 times, and we said, we're tired of that. Even though that's very good, everybody would be thrilled to be second, because there's usually, again,
That's the
15,
biggest race
20.
in the country, right?
In the world, it was.
Yeah.
But we finally won it.
Well, that's so great. It's such an encouragement to hear your story about your family, your mom, your dad, and your brothers all come together, your coxswain.
Can we tell one more story?
Yes, please.
This is small world, because one of the times we finished second. In fact, the year before we finished first.
At the head of the Charles.
At the head of the Charles. A really good 4 from Dallas was there, and a guy named Mike Morshauser was talking to us, and we told him how we were 2 sets of twins, which he knew, less than a year apart and so forth. And that's in October. The next month, he was at home from Dallas. He went home to North Carolina. He's with his mother, and he said, we had a great time and we won at the head of the Charles. We beat the famous brothers, 2 sets of twins born less than a year apart. And do you remember their name? His mother said. And we're so famous he had forgotten our name. But she said, not he, was their name Schuster? And he said, my goodness, that's right. And his mother and my mother were roommates in college.
Wow.
What a small world. So she knew, as soon as she heard 2 sets of twins less than a year apart, she'd been getting, Christmas cards every year with us growing up, each year getting bigger and bigger. And that was really fun.
That is so cool. That is
Okay, well, thanks so much.
Well, thank you. Anything else that you'd say to those people that are just reluctant to get out there and they, just to encourage?
Yeah, I would say one other thing. I started up the women's crew at a school in Rhode Island called Bryant University. And the thing that I told all the applicants, of people when they first came, is give this an honest try. If you go out there on day one and determine whether you're going to like it or not, you'll have blisters and you'll say, it's cold and I don't like this.
Right.
Give it at least 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then you can decide. And some of you will decide this is the best thing that ever happened to you in your life and you'll be hooked forever. And some of you will say, no, I don't want to do it. And we're not going to question either one. But if you don't give it an honest try, you'll never really know. So that's what I'd say.
Give a good, honest try. That's great. Great way to end. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time.
And I see your cap. Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for encouraging others as well.
Yes, we
No,
try.
and you guys
God
are just
bless you and your ministry,
such
because
an
that's what
encouragement.
that's why we're here. I mean, I'll be rowing tomorrow, but the main purpose is to promote the kingdom.
How about
Well,
that?
she's a lady.
I love it. We want to thank you for watching RedefiningAging.us. I'm John Disterdick, your host. And our goal for the series is pretty simple. We just want to enhance the quality of people's lives. So if you know of an event that you think would be one for good for us to cover, please fill out the form on our website, and not only the event and what it is, where it is, when it is, and if there's a person you know that you think would be a good person for us to do a testimony on in some event, please let us know. And if you want a fuller description of my testimony, you can either go to johndisterdick.com and look under ministry, or you can go here at redefiningaging.us. We appreciate your viewership. God bless, and hope to see you on more shows.